You alright, guys? Hope you're doing well. So today is just a short video on the carnivore diet and how a beginner might transition into it. So generally, I'd suggest people to start from a high-fat ketogenic diet, so somewhere around 70% fat or perhaps more. Then transition slowly to reduce plant foods one by one. So the way this might look might be week one, you stop eating broccoli and cauliflower. Week two, you get rid of the carrots and celery. Week three, you might get rid of the potatoes. Week four, you might get rid of everything else, like the wheat flour, the pasta, anything like that, pizza, whatever. They are actually plant-based, believe it or not. This transition might take people somewhere between 2 to 4 weeks. Can take longer depending on where your start point is. But what I like people to do is to use qualitative metrics such as your mood, digestion, how you feel, your sleep quality, everything like that. That will help you determine how best to approach this diet. So the vast majority of people will fall into a way of eating which is around 66% fat and 33% protein. It's essentially a one-to-one fat to protein ratio by macronutrient grams. So imagine 150 grams of protein, 150 grams of fat. I know people will comment on this video and say, "Oh, I do this, I do a different thing." Yeah, you're very special. Um, but bear in mind, this is a video specifically for beginners. So tune out now if this doesn't apply to you. I'd start from the outside in. And what I mean by this is to include dairy, fish, eggs, meat, everything from the animal kingdom. This is essentially a lazy carnivore diet. Some people call it that anyway. I still think it's a carnivore diet. If you're having issues with constipation or diarrhea, digestive distress, reduce some of those. So it might be that you omit the dairy first. Then you should, by this point, notice some settling down if you have an intolerance to it of any kind. If not, you might have to omit more foods. So it might be that you then take out the eggs. They're also an allergen. It might be that you take out shellfish, seafood, bit by bit. You sort of narrow it down until you eventually get to a point where you're eating just beef and lamb. That's more of an end stage carnivore kind of approach, though. It's not the first thing you should go to. So from there on out, you should probably tweak your macros a bit. So your body will get a taste for different foods and different nutrients required in different foods. So you'll notice weeks and weeks go on, some foods will be more palatable than others. That's just goes to show you how dynamic your biological system is. You need different foods at different times and different amounts. The idea that we're eating 2 pounds of meat a day and every day for the rest of your life is not particularly ancestry appropriate, or well, the science wouldn't agree with it at least anyway. I mean, we'd eat things like that. It might not be just beef. It might be beef and organs and some eggs here and there, and make some dairy. It's quite a mixed diet we'd have essentially. So when you get to the point, if you get to the point of eating beef and lamb, like Jordan and Michaela Peterson, you'll find that some of your health issues will be completely into remission. But this isn't always the case. There's always an adaptation period to any of these diets. So when transitioning to and from them, make sure you take it slowly and do it week by week. Don't go say, I'm going to do a month of the lion diet, beef and lamb, ruminant meat, just to see what happens. It's not going to be a clever approach, and your body might hate you for it. You might not be suited to that. Your genetics might not allow it, essentially. So what I mean by this is that we have specific nutrients and they're required at different times just to get our body to function optimally. The genetics we inherit are set in stone, but how they're expressed can change upon different environmental lifestyle factors. So think of it this way. So genetics are the bullets, your diet and lifestyle factors are the trigger. I like to think of things as creating either a net negative or a net positive. So every decision I make that pertains to my health and physique outcomes is weighed out. In some instances, the smaller sacrifice is worth it for the overall gain. Might be that having a little more food one day when my appetite is significantly higher is appropriate. The next day, it might be less. So this is an example of meeting your body's requirements and listening to your body. So if you're having no issues, standard lazy carnivore approach, such as the former outlined, would be useful. In an ideal world, we'll eat to sustain ourselves and feel our best. And how that comes about is different between each and every one of us. I believe that every one of us has a predetermined expiration date. And what I mean by this is that we can acquire a certain amount of diet and lifestyle infringements without creating damage. Beyond that point, however, we can begin to gain exponentially worse damage to our body. An example of this is how someone can smoke 40 cigarettes per day and live to 100. The next person might smoke one cigarette a day for a month and all of a sudden they develop lung cancer. It's the same with our diet. Um, we might consume sugar and plant materials to some extent, be fine with it for the rest of our lives, but the other person evidently will not. They'll suffer with diabetes, bowel conditions, all sorts of horrible issues and diseases we dread to ever think of having. So my genetics, for example, seem to predispose me to having issues with my hip joints. So with this in mind, I'll take measures to reduce damage and the strain I put on my body that may cause it to worsen. The same concept applies to our diet. If our ancestry from our geographical origin would eat a diet full of dairy, fish, whatever it is, then it would indicate that we should probably do just that. This is explained by the topic of epigenetics. That's a topic for another video. This is basically where our genetics can alter over a period of time to have a higher requirement of different nutrients found from those foods. So to summarize, we are ultimately biologically extremely similar, but how our body tolerates the world around us can greatly vary. Whatever diet you decide to follow, understand that your mileage may vary and be different to others. Take notes and try to use the information I put across in these videos. I really want to make a positive impact. So please leave a comment below and tell everyone what diet you found best. Thank you for watching.